Welcome to the Sew Along for Simplicity 1544. We are getting ready for fall and holiday and winter wear by making this flannel shirt. You can make this pattern out of any fabric, whether it's woven or denim or my favorite is flannel. So here's my choice right here. And I want to go over the pattern first. So if you're not as familiar with following a pattern, this is an easy one with a lot of steps, but the steps are easy. So I got Simplicity from Joann's, and what I want to share with you right now is the value of your highlighter or a red pen or whatever, just some marking tool that you can highlight your steps. So first, I'm making view A. Okay, so I circled that on the front so I can continually look at the view of it. And then on the back, I highlighted everything that applies to my view. Here's my size that I'm going to cut. I am making this for man, so here's my size I'm going to cut. If you're making it for yourself, just come down and do your measurements, and you'll probably make a really small one. But an oversized shirt is a really cool thing to have. Here's everything involving view A shirt, and then here's my 60-inch wide fabric. I know how much fabric I need, and the contrast. I'm going to use a denim on for the contrast for the sleeves and the back of the collar. And then we need interfacing. So I've highlighted everything there. Okay, and then I went to the pattern and I read my pattern 3 times. So here's view A that I've circled. Here's my cutting layouts. I do have a 60-inch wide fabric for shirt A, and this is the layout that I'm going to use to cut out my fabric. I highlighted the various pieces that I need. I need all of these pieces, 1 through 11. Okay. And then I went through each step. This is why you read the pattern, just so you can make sure that you understand the steps. And when the sewing directions start, I'm on shirt A, and then I start with the pockets. And then I continue. Let's go back. I forgot to highlight this. This is the interfacing, the pieces you need to be interfaced for shirt A. And then, because different views of the pattern, it'll mix up the instructions. So just depending on what view you're making. So continue as follow for all views. And then you continue all of your instructions. And we will go over every one of the instructions. So what I'm going to do now is I've got my pattern pieces laid out. They're all cut. And I've got the pattern pieces that I need to cut interfacing from. My interfacing is a lightweight fusible. It matches the weight of my fabric. So if you struggle with choosing what interfacing to use, just hold it up in your hand and make sure it matches the weight. You don't want it too thin, but you don't want it too heavy either, because that's what interfacing does. Just give it some stability, but you can mismatch it and get something that's too heavy for your fabric. So these two weights match. So I got this one, so I'm going to cut out my interfacing pieces first, and then I'm going to cut out all of my pattern pieces. And then we will get started. Let's talk about our fabric. I hope you've already washed it. You know, that's a rule. Wash your fabric as soon as you buy it, even though you don't know what you're going to make. Wash it anyway. As soon as I come in the house with fabric, I go straight to the wash and dump it in. And then I press it and fold it up and put it in my stash. So with flannel, depending on the kind of flannel you got, or even the kind of fabric, because everyone may not be making a flannel shirt, it may be tough to decide which is the right side. Okay. There's plenty ways that you can determine what the manufacturer wanted. So sometimes I can look at the selvage and determine what the right side is, because I can see where the holes are. Sometimes I can feel it and determine, but if there's not a clear color difference or pattern difference, what you're going to have to do, and it's okay, is decide which side is going to be your right side. Okay, I've already decided the inside, as it's folded, the inside is going to be my right side. And what I suggest you do is you take a piece of chalk, or you can use stickers or whatever. You can take a piece of chalk and just do that all over your fabric. Just make chalk marks all over the wrong side of your fabric, and chalk marks will stay the whole time that you are sewing, so you never lose orientation of what your right and wrong side is, especially when you have lots of pieces to cut. So there's a suggestion on how to prep your fabric. And then we will, because most flannels have the plaid in them, so we're going to talk about how to match the plaids up, particularly for the front of the shirt. Here is a tip on how to lay your fabric out so you can start pattern matching, particularly if you have plaids. So if you notice, I've got it laid out, the lines line up. I don't have it folded edge to edge, just so I can see. And I'm just testing it, and if I pull the first layer back, I can see that I've got it all lined up. Okay, and I put it back. If you notice on the bottom, this is why you do this, because the lady at the fabric store does not cut your fabric right on the line so you can have it even. So you have to do it yourself. Okay, so let me show you how I get started. This is the front piece, which is A, and I just kind of lay it out where I think I want it. Let me pull this down so you can see. Kind of lay it out where I think I want it. So I use that as a mark, this line right here. Okay, so that's good. And then the front band, I'd like to have that lined up and match. So I'm going to lay the front band. See, the front band gets stitched right here. So I'm going to lay it in the same spot as the top, that same edge. Okay, and see how everything lines up here. So once you cut it, you've got your pieces that match. And then what we'll do, we'll take, after we cut this piece, we'll take the back piece and match it up. And those are the only 3 pieces that you need to have matched. Doing the sleeves, that's a whole nother thing. You could probably do it, and maybe we'll try. But this is a good way to have your lines matching up so that you can have some good pattern matching on the front. Now we're going to do the same thing for the back piece as we did for the front. Lay the fabric out on the fold and pull it back and test and make sure you've got it lined up correctly. And then what we want to do, here's the back piece. Okay. Then take your front that's already cut out and lay it on the other side. Just lay it down, matching up where the fabric is. So let's come, where are we? We're right here. See how it all matches up? This is your front piece, and just make sure it matches the line placement. And then the only thing that's going to match up is the side, so that as you look around the body, the prints will match. So here's your underarm seam right here, and you want to match the underarm seam of the back. And these 2 seams will be stitched together. The back is laid on the fold. You can see, let me scoot it over a little. Yeah, the back is laid on the fold, and don't worry about the yoke. The yoke, just so, this is for demonstration purposes. The yoke goes here, and you'll be matched up all the way up to about here, because if you notice, the back armhole is always larger than the front armhole. So, and the sleeve goes here. So you would have to match up where the sleeve is, and that's why it's just a little bit more challenging, okay? But for this shirt, let's just match up the body of the design so that it can have a consistent look around. So this is where we are going to cut out our back piece. Then I'll cut out the yoke right in that same spot so my lines are consistent. We have all of our pieces cut out. So let's go over some quick tips. Wait a minute, let's move this out of the way. I'll give you guys vertigo. Okay, so those are our large pieces. I want to talk about cutting out notches and interfacing. Make sure before you remove the pattern piece, in fact, don't remove the pattern piece until you're ready to sew. So here's an example. I've already interfaced everything. Take all of the pieces that you should be interfacing and put them separate so you can do your interfacing. So here's the collar, and I interface. It was cut 2 of fabric, cut 1 of interfacing. So I interface 1 layer of my fabric. Now here's a tip. If you already cut your notches before you interfaced, this is what it's going to look like. So recut those notches so you don't lose sight of them, because see how it looks on the interface side? So you don't want to lose sight of your notches, okay? All right, so, and then I've got that piece. Now here is the front. I've interfaced both sides, the front band. I've interfaced both sides. This is what we want to talk about. Let's talk about these circles. Circles are indicators of how to put 2 pieces of fabric together, just like notches. And because a shirt has so many pieces, they are very important. So 2 ways to do a good job on doing your circles. I have a pen. It's the Friction pen. It erases with heat. It also erases with its own eraser. And what I typically do is punch through the pattern fabric, pattern paper, and I mark just like that. Or I use stickers, just depending on the fabric and how it's going to show up. So go around to each of your pattern pieces and make sure that you've got all your circles marked. Okay, let's see if there's any more on this piece. Now just check your pieces. I too will miss a circle, and then later on you're like, what happened? Okay, let's see. Missed this piece. Here's piece number 7, the neck band. Now here's another tip. I am using a contrast fabric for my neck band. So here's my flannel, and here's a nice cotton plaid that I'm going to use for the contrast. Cut these pieces together. Lay the fabric together and cut them together with your pattern piece so they'll all be the same cut edges, because you don't want anything different and then it'll be raggedy. You're like, what happened? So this piece in particular has circles on it. Okay, I've already interfaced. I've already cut my notches. I cut them all together with the interfacing on it also. And now I just want to make sure I cut, punch through and do my marking. This one doesn't want to show up. There you go. And then you can reinforce it. And then do this on both sides. Both sides of your pattern pieces, they need these circles indicated on them. Okay. Make sure it's there. I love this pen. And then just continue. So these are just tips on how to get your marks on, because you will lose sight of them. You're not going to deal with the cuff until later, so you'll forget and like, oh, what happened? Here's a circle here. Use your pen or put a sticker. Okay, I get these out of the dollar store, you know, whatever. I use them for everything. Here are your buttonhole marks. You're going to do the same thing there. You can use your pen, you know, to do that, punching through the paper, or you can use tracing paper with your tracing wheel. What else? That's about it. Just make sure all of your notches are cut. All of your markings are done. The sleeve has notches on it. You've got double notches for the back and a single notch for the front. Here's the placket. It's got tracing lines, stitching lines on it. You need to trace those, transfer those markings to the fabric. Spend a lot of time with your cut pattern pieces, making sure that you have all of your notches and circles marked. So the next step is we're going to start sewing, and the pockets are next.